shoot on his leg.
Episode 116 of Chet and John's Reassuringly Finite Gaming Playlist. My name's Chet Robbins, with me as usual is John Denton.
Not the toilet.
Two top 10 lists, the 10 games we've been playing over the past 7 days. 10's the least, number 1's the most. That's it, John, let's do this.
My number 10 is a game called Starbound on the personal computer. I played this very, very briefly at my nephew's house on the weekend. Are you aware of what Starbound is?
I've definitely heard the title, but no.
So this is like a sort of semi-phenomenon. It's not actually finished yet. It's still in early access, I believe. It's a game that's like Terraria, which itself is like a 2D Minecraft mixed with a kind of 2D platformer, putting it very simply. But this one's set in space, and you can also, along with the sort of digging and crafting elements, stuff I don't really dig, you can dig, wrong choice of words, stuff I don't really like, you can jet off to other planets and discover like all these amazing planets and randomly generated planets, and they'll have their own flora and fauna and enemies and stuff. I think they're randomly generated as well, so you never know what you're going to find. And people absolutely love it. I didn't really get a chance to play it much. I don't really like crafting, building shit. It's just I'm too old. I just don't want to build stuff and build a little house, and I get bored. But the other side of the game, where it's like a kind of really open 2D shooter, basically, that's very cool. So I'm going to keep tabs on it, because my nephew says you don't really need to do much at the crafting. You can just kind of jet about and find stuff and find new baddies, and that just sounds fun. So I can see why people absolutely love it.
When's it officially going to be released?
Who knows? You're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah, true.
But I don't think there is a final release date yet. It's just, they're early accessing it all up in here.
All right. Okay. Yeah. No, I've definitely heard of that game, and it's pretty much what I thought it was. What I thought it was, anyway. So, it doesn't really sound like my cup of tea either. But who knows?
Yeah. Half of it would be, half of it wouldn't.
Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it. Okay. My number 10. I assume this might be on your list. It's Wolfenstein: The New Order.
It's not.
It's not. Okay. I only played it briefly because I went round to a friend's place because he had the Xbox One version. I played the PlayStation 4 version, and I wanted to see, have a look at what they look like. A lot of my friends have bought this, and I didn't expect them to. I think it's primarily out of a hunger for something new. But it's done well, and I'm sure it's going to continue doing well, because it's gotten a very good word of mouth from the likes of me included. But yeah, I wanted to see what they look like. Just looking at it visually, playing it for about 10 minutes and watching my friend play it, it was. There's no difference in between them at all. They look exactly the same on PS4 and Xbox One. If there are any differences, they're only minor. The only cool thing, he was using Kinect because, to select a weapon in Wolfenstein, there's quite a fiddly weapon wheel thing. And when it's filled with all of the weapons you can have later on, it's actually, it's quite fiddly. So he was just showing pistol, shotgun, dual wield, throw grenade, and it worked really well.
That's cool.
He said the only thing that didn't work, because it's still kind of, it works best when you put a bit of an American twang in your accent. Yeah. The one thing that didn't work is because assault, and the way Americans say assault, is completely different. So it would, when he wanted to get the assault rifles out, that command never works. It looks identical, and it's a really fun game. I was watching him attempt to do the final boss, and he was finding it hellish. I mean, it can be that sort of game, really, really, really relentlessly old school, where it's but everyone I know is doing it on the 4th difficulty tier, whereas I did the 3rd, and I thought that was more than fine. Wolfenstein's good.
The hardest one.
No, there's one down from hardest, because there's 5, isn't there? It's like Doom style.
I started on the 4th and then scaled it down to the 3rd when I kept getting smashed up.
Yeah, 3rd one is that's fine.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty much perfect.
I haven't had the chance to play that this week, but it's very, very much on my agenda. I want to get back into it. I enjoyed what I played a lot.
Yeah.
All right, my number 9 is Dark Souls 2, actually, on Xbox 360. Again, turns out my nephew is some sort of Dark Souls savage, and he has completed the first one, I think, 5 or 6 times, and already completed the second one 5 times. Yeah, I had no idea because a couple of years ago he was just a child, and now he's nearly 14, and he's just he's a proper gamer, and is amazing. Clearly, has a lot of skill and free time as you do at that age. But he's a Dark Souls savage. So I kind of saw the beginning of the game, but with it was like a level 240 character or something, which was interesting because I didn't realise how powerful you could get in Dark Souls. Because my guy's always just been walking around with a sword and a shield and making everything seem very difficult for himself. Whereas this guy could just like chuck huge amounts of fire at anything that got anywhere near him, just destroy everything. So that was kind of interesting. The game itself, I played it very, very briefly. Again, you know, this isn't a game that you can really just jump into for 20 minutes and get any real bearing of what it's like. But it seemed very much more of the same. Obviously, there was a long cutscene at the beginning, which tonally didn't seem quite as kind of barren as the first game. Just seemed a little bit... it felt instantly like the B team had made it, even in that very, very short amount of time. But and I'm told by him, my nephew, that some of the bosses later on aren't as good as the bosses in the first game, but, you know, he's still completed it 5 times, so it must be doing something right. My opinion is worthless anyway on Dark Souls, really, but certainly on Dark Souls 2, which I played fuck all of. But, it looks a bit nicer than Dark Souls 1, and it is the game that I've still got so much of the first one to play, so who knows if I'll ever play this, but, yeah, that's a game I played.
Are they going to bring this... Do you reckon they're going to smush them together and bring them to Xbox One, PS4?
Wouldn't surprise me if that happened, but they're doing this new one now on PlayStation, aren't they? The Project Beast thing. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
I assume we're going to hear more about that next week. So who knows? Well, lots of people do, but I'm not one of them.
Okay. I take it you've got no reason to go back to the first one now that it's free on Xbox 360.
What do you mean?
Well, you've already got it, haven't you? There's no. I mean, it's not going to entice you to go back because if you've got Xbox Live Gold, it's now free.
Oh, I see what you mean. I still intend to go back to it at some point, but the good thing about it doesn't feel like it's not going to age because it doesn't look great now. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. But I do want to go back to it. I was enjoying it a lot when I was playing it, but it's a commitment, is what I'd say about that game. It's a real commitment. And when I'm already behind on games this year massively, so it's tough.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I might talk about Dark Souls in the coming weeks if I get time. Who knows? Okay, my number 9 is Sly Cooper Thieves in Time on the PlayStation Vita. I dipped back into it for about 20 minutes, and I can only repeat what I've already said. It's clearly excellent. It doesn't run brilliantly on Vita. It's not awful by any means, but if you've downloaded it from PS Plus and you have the option of the PS3 over the Vita, take it because I have no doubt that it's superior. It's just really, it has a really silly, warm-hearted sense of humour, and it's a classy. It's really well structured. It's kind of intravenously enjoyable, like a Nintendo game. Just feels lovely. Bit of stealth, action, platforming, etc. I kind of wish that games older than 18 months old didn't tend to feel inessential, but that's the predicament I'm in. I'm constantly looking for things to put to one side, and I needed the space on my Vita because it took up like 3 gig or so. I think it was that big. I can't remember, but it was a lot of space that I needed to clear. So as really, really, really fantastically good as it is, I don't have time. It's kind of, video games are weird. They bob into view and then they sort of disappear again, and only a small handful can sort of maintain that. I mean, you have to be a classic in order to go back this far. But it's if you've got it, you've done well because it's clearly an excellent game.
I've never played that, but good on it.
Yes, yeah, well said.
All right, my number 8 is a game called Make It Rain on my phone. Did you see the article that came out on Eurogamer today about this game?
No, but I saw some reference to it being a phenomenon.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
Apparently it is. I'd never heard of it until this article came out on Eurogamer today being Thursday, written by Simon Parkin, and you read about half of the article. It was interesting, so I decided to play the game, and I meant to go read the second half of the article. I'm a terrible person and I haven't yet. But when I went on there, it's over 1 million downloads on the Google Play Store already. And it's a very, very, very simple game. You've got a wad of cash, and you just have to flick it. Just flick it, basically, and then every time you flick it, the score goes up. Real basic, the most base thing in the world. And as you earn more money, you can press one of the buttons down the bottom and buy different things. Some of them make every swipe earn you more money. Some earn you money when you turn off the app or whatever. And the idea is just to keep earning money. Quickly, I'd stopped doing it because why on earth would I do that? I should be working. So there's nothing about this that that base thing of seeing a number go up doesn't really do it for me. So I don't really understand why people would spend a lot of time playing this game, but clearly people have, and it's enough to write an article about and things like that. But yeah, it's just nothing basically. It's just a big load of nothing.
It's exactly the same as the game I spoke about last week on XSplig, so it must have been a sort of fast buck rip-off. I didn't realise it because I have never heard of this until now. But yeah, the money game.
Yeah,
you just press a button and money goes up and up, and I was like, who
maybe
the fuck
it's the other
is
way
this
around.
For? How do you mean?
Maybe the XSplig one's the rip-off.
No, yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sure it's in the same way that I'm sure there's probably 2 more on there this week that I haven't checked.
Yeah.
But and in the same way, there's already 10 Flappy Bird claims. Well, that's weird. Is there any way to are they making money from that game? Are there microtransactions or something?
Was there adverts in it? Probably. There's probably adverts in it, and there was another thing where you got more money or a better doubler if you downloaded one of their other games. So I don't know. I'm sure they are.
What I mean, because I remember how bemused I was by the money game, and that just sounds like the same thing again. Why?
The tangible feeling of flicking the money was fun for about 4 seconds, and then it wasn't fun.
Jesus. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Weird. That just I don't understand it. But okay, all right, never mind. My number 8 is a game called Don't Look Back. I played it on a Mac. It's available on Flash. It's available on all sorts of devices, phones and whatnot. It's the Terry Kavanagh game that I think I spoke about last week, maybe the week before, and I bailed on it for the second time. Joe Screbbles of sort of official Nintendo magazine fame, infamy, one of the two, he said that there's a bit of a gameplay shift in the second half, which I obviously hadn't got to because I never saw that. So I went back and I managed to beat the incredibly difficult precision timed jump that I had to make on what's I'm far and away the hardest screen in the game. And there is a very sort of large shift in the game to the point where it could be said that you haven't really played it if you've not reached that point. And that's quite strange because what most people would consider to be the game after finishing it only really comprises the final third of it, which is quite strange. But yeah, the final third is easily as compelling as the rest of it, if not more so. It's nowhere near as difficult, which kind of helped. And there is some mild, ambiguous closure to the narrative, what little narrative there is there. So yeah, I'm glad I went back. And everybody has the option to play it. It's on everything. Don't look back. You can play it in 10 minutes if you don't get stuck.
Yeah, I will do. I forgot.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's really. It's just. Just the elements that are put in place to make it feel a certain way is masterfully done because it's so basic.
Awesome. I forgot about that, so I'm happy that I remembered. Okay. My number 7 then is Halo Spartan Assault on Xbox One.
Oh yeah.
This was free with Games with Gold, wasn't it?
It is.
Is this on your list as well?
It's higher up on my list.
Okay. I didn't play much of this. Time has been at a premium this week, but it felt like the first game of this Microsoft Games with Gold thing. I was like, oh, okay, I might actually download this then. It's not something I've already played. And I played the first few levels, and I just thought, I'm glad. I was actually glad that it was shit, because I just thought, I don't have time anyway, and I do love Halo, but it was just a really it felt like the mobile game that it was in the first place straight away. The twin stick shooter in very small areas, shooting things that I guess look like Halo enemies, but could be anything. The little elite hid behind a box, chucked a grenade at him, and I just thought, am I really going to spend time just running around in circles, pot-shotting these things, or am I just going to turn it off? So I did. I guess I'll hear about your opinions on it later.
Well, I can just get it out of the way because it's not the most exciting thing in the world. I played it for considerably longer than you have. Yeah, I mean, it didn't make much of a splash when it was on Windows 8 and Windows phones, and then it didn't make a splash when it was on Xbox One at launch. So here it is, Games for Gold. It's exactly what you'd expect. Microsoft to give away, given what we've been given in the past. It's just a bit of a nothing game. It runs really smoothly on Xbox One, but the upgrade structure's routine. And although it's free on launch, or at the launch of the Xbox One, it was not free, and it was about £12, I think. And there's microtransactions in it, which allow you to bypass XP rewards with credits, and it's all unlocked very, very slowly if you don't feel like paying, which is just a real bitter pill, as we've spoken about a million times in a game you paid for one thing, but it doesn't fit, and it's incredibly obnoxious. I was surprised it's in the game. It's slightly buggy as well. I lost audio twice, and I had to sign out to get the audio back. And on one occasion, I had to restart the whole thing because it wouldn't recognise that I was pressing A to proceed for some reason. So it's buggy, genuinely buggy. It's also quite an annoying game because you're a hard as nails super soldier, but if you're in a vehicle and the vehicle gets blown up, you die. But vehicle health bars are maddeningly unpredictable. You can't try and go into a fight in a vehicle and aim to jump out of it when it's about to explode, because you can't, because those bars can just deplete in a second. They can just vanish, and that's really, really infuriating. It's just one of those games that clearly began its life as an extremely drab game made for phones. The levels are very short indeed. There's the micropayments, etc. And in a way, it would kind of be more interesting if it wasn't so functional and smoothly presented, because as such, it's just passable at best. And who the hell has time for passable?
Who has time for passable, indeed?
And it's occasionally infuriating. So, yeah, I mean, it's an Xbox One freebie. What did you want?
Yeah, pish.
Pish is the word.
Okay, my number 6 then. I think this is what the game's called, but there's about 9 billion different versions of it on the Google Play Store, and I'm assuming probably on the iOS Store as well. It's called Don't Touch the White Tile. This was actually a really compelling game. I saw my nephew playing this on his... he's got like a Samsung tablet thing. So I was like, right, I'm getting that straight away. Basically, I think it's 4 bars going down the screen, and they're split into black and white tiles. I think it's sort of 3 black and 1 white. It might be the other way around, but there's so many different versions of this game on the store that everyone's ever so slightly different. And the idea is that you have to touch the black keys, and the whole thing scrolls down. And the quicker that you can touch them, it scrolls down quicker. And the idea being is you want to get as high a number as possible without accidentally touching one of the white tiles instead of the black tiles. It's one of those skill-based games that has a high score chase to it and is dangerously compelling. Although what you're doing is essentially just empty nothingness. It's a skill game, so it's not like that Make It Rain where you're just literally doing nothing for the sake of no reason whatsoever. There's this fun skill to this. It's the type of thing that you and I have always liked. There's different modes where it's like a timed mode, how many you can do in 30 seconds if you don't fuck it up. There's like a mode where it's reversed. A couple of other modes. So they're all very, very similar plays on the same theme. You're basically doing the same thing in every single one. There's one version of the game that my nephew had that was different to mine, even though it had the same title. The things were coloured. But the game is basically the same, whatever version that you happen to pick up. And it's just a really simple, fun game that's perfect for a phone. Dangerously compelling. If you get into a high score battle with someone, you will regret ever downloading it. But, yeah it's a good one and a freebie.
So you have no idea whether you were playing the original or one of the knockoffs?
It's impossible to tell. So I typed in... He told me what the game is called, so I typed it in, and it's just like dum 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 dum. Like the top 10 are all called that, but one will have like a lowercase t, one will have an of in it for no reason. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Why is that allowed? I
don't know.
That's really rubbish, because, someone came up with a cool sounding or a cool game, and that sucks. I take it they're all free.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Everything's free now.
Okay, well, I might look into that because it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's good fun.
All right. Okay, my number 7 is a game called Pixeljunk Shooter Ultimate on the PlayStation Vita. It's also on PlayStation 4, and it's one of this month's
Isn't this
PlayStation
your number 6?
What did I say? 7?
Yeah.
No, that's my number 6. My number 7. No. Why do you think it's my number 6?
Wasn't that my number 6?
I don't think so.
That's the 5th one I've done.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh, well, I've done Halo and it's my 5. I don't understand. Let's just keep doing this and hope that it doesn't all end horribly somehow. So I think my 7's Pixeljunk Shooter Ultimate. Anyway, it's a PS Plus game this month. I've played it for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and it is clearly outstanding.
Really?
It's a perfect Vita game as well. I played it on the Vita rather than the PS4. It's sectioned into short chunks that aren't too short, and I'm sure probably expand as the game goes on. But more importantly, it's you just know it's one of those games again. I can't remember the last time I spoke about a game that just instantly. I mean, I suppose Sly Cooper is a great example. You just you can just feel it straight away. But yeah, it's a shooter, obviously, but it's set in this underground cavern where you're rescuing stranded workers and you have to manage the environment. So clearing rocks away to make new paths and stuff, but mainly, more importantly, you're looking after the water and the lava that's down there. When the water meets the lava, it kind of fuses into a rock, and in some cases that's helpful. In others, it's not. And you can't get too cocky around the fire. Once you start mastering the game, which I did quite quickly, or feeling like I was mastering it, you can't get too cocky around the fire because it can kill you if your heat gauge rises. So you need to dunk yourself in water quite frequently. Part of the fun so far has been that it's incredibly easy to kill the guys that you're trying to save because right trigger is shoot and left trigger you kind of fling this almost like a lasso to sweep up sort of the survivors into your ship and other things as well. You can sort of catch other things on it and then use them to transport water and fire around. And it's very easy to mistake the shoot button with that. So I just kept end up killing these poor little guys and it was mildly amusing. And it's one-hit kills as well. So it's challenging immediately, but not cheap. It's there's things to avoid, but it feels right. It feels perfectly tuned. It's another matchless PS Plus game. I mean, if you haven't played this before, yeah, you've done all right. A friend of mine said to me, so I'm not 100% sure if it's true, but apparently Sony pledged that all PS Plus games would be above a certain number on Metacritic. Have you heard that?
I've never heard that. No.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that's it. Might be complete and utter bullshit, but that's what I got told. Which is, I mean, perhaps if it wasn't in place, we wouldn't be playing games as good as this all the time. But it would be a shame if that's the case, just because more idiosyncratic fare is going to sort of get bypassed, isn't it?
Yeah, I've certainly never heard that.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably my mate being a dick, but it seemed plausible for all of 5 seconds. But I guess
it might be the case. I just can't. I don't ever remember hearing that.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So yeah. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, Pixeljunk Shooter Ultimate is absolutely terrific so far.
Yeah, I'm on that. Like white on rice. Right. My number 5 then, or whatever the hell number we're on, is Titanfall, but it's actually Titanfall on Xbox 360. My nephew doesn't have a next gen console, so but he does have Titanfall, and I had a good few games on it, to be honest. I won't go on about how Titanfall works, but I will say I was amazed at how good it is on 360. I mean, it really is. It obviously doesn't look as nice as the Xbox One version. It's a lot lower resolution and murkier. But apart from that, it is Titanfall. I forgot within half a match that I wasn't playing on Xbox One. Yeah. It was just... I think it actually runs smoother, which is embarrassing, than the Xbox One version runs. It seemed to have less frame rate drops. Obviously, to repeat, it doesn't look anywhere near as good. But the Titans move in that same way. It was like, big Titan battles... not killing the game. It's the same game, and it's just as fun. And what a bang-up job. And I can see why they didn't show it. It was always going to be for one or two reasons. They weren't going to show it because it was awful, or they weren't going to show it, which is the case, that it was too good. And yeah, it's definitely the latter. If you've been wanting to play Titanfall but didn't think that you wanted to play it on 360 and you don't have next gen or PC good enough to play it, I'd say don't worry about it. Definitely get it on 360. You won't be disappointed. Well, it's cool. I mean, I forgot. That's how good it is. I forgot.
Have they gotten the DLC that's out at the moment?
Not yet, but it's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, just everything's a little bit later on 360. But yeah, it's just Titanfall. It's just like it's kind of like, you remember if you'd play an Xbox 360 game on a standard def TV, what that looks like.
Yeah.
So right. Before people started getting HD TVs, it kind of looks like you're playing the Xbox One version on a standard def TV, even on a high def TV, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right. But
yeah.
Gotcha.
So you're not the end of the world by any stretch.
Wow. Okay. They haven't been very. I haven't heard anything about how the 360 version sold compared to the others.
I think it's sort of pushed it back towards the top of the charts for quite a long time, didn't it?
Oh, did it? Okay.
I think it's done really well on 360.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm really tempted to have a go. Just I obviously can't justify buying on a different format, but
that's why I mentioned it, because it was interesting to play it. But yeah, what a great version! Those guys at Blue Point Games are phenomenal.
Yeah, well done. Nice job. Okay, well, my number 6, I'm probably going to have to hold off because I want you to lead on it because I'm sort of fumbling in the dark. My number 6 is EA Sports UFC.
Okay, well, I'm coming to that shortly, so I'll switch it around. I'll go for that next. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, technically my number 3, but I'll do it as 4. So yeah, the demo's out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I played PlayStation 4. It's just Alexander Gustafsson, big tall Swedish guy, against John Jones, who's the current light heavyweight champion in the demo. And it's a 3-round fight. You can rematch it as much as you want. Good demo. My initial thoughts when I first played it was, looks nice. Obviously, looks very, very nice. Striking was fun, but was very disappointed with a lot of the grappling. That was my initial thoughts. The more I played it, the more I started to understand how unbelievably complicated the controls are for the grappling game. Probably more so even than the Undisputed games, and definitely way more so than EA MMA. And started to appreciate it more, but it still does have some very, very large gaps in it that aren't going to be rectified between now and the game being released. Gaps that have been filled by the Undisputed games already in the past. So I think I'm reading online and people are disappointed by that sort of stuff. But I'll kick off with the striking, because whenever you're talking about MMA game, it always helps to break it down into the 3 kind of areas that these fights happen in. Face buttons, Tekken style for striking, with modifiers, set of modifiers using left bumper /L1, set of modifiers using right bumper, and the strikes can be changed by how the direction you're holding the stick, and they can be aimed to the body instead of the head. A phenomenal amount of strikes that can happen when it's good, when you're using head movement and striking, boxing, using leg kicks, making it look like an MMA fight, like a top-level MMA fight. Really, really good. You clip someone with a hook as they're moving in and kind of wobble them and then swarm them and stuff like that. That stuff's good. In the demo, John Jones kept doing this ridiculous cartwheel kick, which he's never done in real life. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do it in real life. It's not a hugely difficult move to execute, but it's not a very sensible move when you're fighting one of the best light heavyweight fighters in the world to attempt. So you'd never really see it in a UFC fight, and the computer kept spamming it. It's just stupid. And Alex Gustafsson has like a 360 tornado kick, which has been busted out a few times in the octagon over the years, but not by him. And it just looks stupid. And hopefully in 2-player games, people will kind of not use that too much. But I enjoyed that side of it. The second thing to talk about is takedowns and wrestling. So in these games, typically they've not managed to capture how wrestling actually works. So in these games, typically one guy will shoot a takedown, which, if you don't follow the sport, just kind of means ducking down and going for the guy's legs. Rugby tackle. Think rugby tackle if you don't follow the sport at its basics. In all of these games, that either works or the other guy defends it and it doesn't work. And that's still, unfortunately, the case here. Whereas in real wrestling, when you shoot on someone's legs, it turns into a really organic battle. That sounded weird, but I'm used to saying that. That's just like normal parlance for me. It turns into a battle, so one guy might drive the other guy all the way back across the ring into the fence while the other guy is trying to defend. Things can go back and forth. You might drop the guy to his butt, but he can scramble back up. That stuff started to make its way into Undisputed 3 and was all the better for it, and is completely absent here, which is really quite disappointing. Also, when you clinch up on the feet, a big part of MMA is driving someone into the fence when you're clinching up, because they can't move anywhere. You can bully them against the fence. Huge part of the sport. You can do that in this game, but in the middle of the cage, you can't really move the guys around, which is just daft. So Yeah, that stuff's disappointing, and it just feels like they probably didn't have time to implement that stuff as well as they should do. And then on the ground, the jiu-jitsu stuff's okay. It's very, very complicated. Some of it, it's difficult because I'm looking at it through the eyes of someone who does this for hours and hours every week, whereas most people aren't going to be looking at it through those eyes. So I can't be too critical of, I'm looking at a way he's moving his arm for an underhook under the other guy's arm, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, that doesn't look right. But to be fair, that's not really something that most people are going to notice. I'm sure there are real boxers and Thai boxers who look at the stand-up game and get pissed off with that. So can't get too fussy about that. But probably the most disappointing thing about the demo, once I worked out the controls that I thought weren't there at all, and I thought the game was a bit of a mess, and it's not as bad as I thought, is one of the best things, probably the best thing about MMA, the most exciting thing anyway, is when someone scores a knockdown on the other guy, drops them with a punch or a kick, and then they swarm on their prone body and try and finish them off with strikes. It's thrilling, and the guy on bottom still has a chance to recover, still has a chance to get to guard, or you can get the situation where the guy on top swarms and the other guy catches him in a submission. It's so thrilling when it happens, and it will just bring you out of your seat every single time. Here, when you drop the guy, there's no real way of swarming on them. You either stand there swinging at midair, or you stop for a second and then move into the ground game. There's no. In EA MMA, there was a specific mode where it activated and one guy just swarmed, bang, 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 and the other guy's just desperately trying to recover. It was simplified, but it looked great. In Undisputed, certainly the third Undisputed, they had this kind of rush mode where when it happened, one guy sprinted and the other guy had to try and recover and move ahead and get there, and that was actually really quite good. Here it just feels real. It's like the first Undisputed game, but that's really disappointing for me. I like the game a lot. I think it's good. I think it's capable of throwing out some great moments. I'm very excited to play with the rest of the characters and test out the other modes and test out the online stuff. And the proof will be when I'm playing a series of 2-player games against real-life competition. But for now, I can't help but feel a bit disappointed by it.
How does it compare to when you played it a few months ago?
When I played it a few months ago, it was a mess.
Right.
The clinching wasn't even in the game, which says to me that's gone in late, which is why it's so basic. And the response times to the striking was like you press the button and then it would happen 3/4 of a second later. So it was very difficult to get any gauge of how the game was going to play because it was so laggy and the frame rate was so bad. And I was getting the impression from speaking to the guys who are behind the game of how push for time they've been on this game. They were saying they've only had 18 months to make it. That must have been said in casual, friendly conversation with smiles on faces 20 times in the time that I was there. So I was really getting the vibe that they've tried everything they can. I'm not really blaming the team. And I still think it's going to be a good game, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I will be playing a lot of it. And I've had some cracking matches on it. I really have. But I think it does in many ways feel a step back from games that have been around for a few years, and I can't help but feel disappointed by that, but I'm still excited for it. And I think if you're just looking for a game that looks amazing and you want to have some great scraps on it and you're not an MMA nerd, you'll probably enjoy it more because you won't be picking holes in it in the same way that someone who's obsessed with the sport will be.
But do you think they've made it too complicated?
Well, there's that other aspect as well. It's incredibly complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I played several rounds and I started to grasp it and feel like I was really enjoying it, but the tutorial makes the same mistakes that I don't think EA MMA did it. But those THQ UFC games, that all they did is like do move A, do move B, do move A, and then they just monkey see, monkey do, and it's not helpful, especially not to me because you don't really learn when to do what. I think EA MMA did it much better because it had Bass Root and you had to respond to things.
Yeah.
But rather than just press A, press B, right now go and do it. And I was like, I'm sure this won't be the case in the finished game as well, but. In the demo, if you want to check moves, obviously you're going to want to check moves. There's 5 million of them. You click on the menu, it just says, go check out the moves on our website.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not a great way to sell something. I know most people have tablets and smartphones next to them, but then just going, the instructions are elsewhere. I was just like, come on.
Yeah, that was bad. Thankfully, I did bring up those instructions, and that is actually what helped me start understanding the game. Because it doesn't teach you, like in the tutorial, it doesn't teach you how to move your head.
Yeah, right.
So I just thought that wasn't in the game, and I played 5 matches using the controls they told me about, and thinking, I was like, you're taking the piss. You can't move your head. You can't do head movement. Standard stuff's in every fight night's in. All the UFC games apart from the first one, but it is in there, and so I started using that more. It's not as good as it is in EA MMA or UFC Undisputed 3. I think I'm saying those sentences a bit too much, and that's what's disappointing.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be really, really good in many ways, and I've had some, like I say, some amazing moments in it. It is very complicated, but as I started to grasp it, you realise a lot of the controls are the same in multiple situations, whereas in Undisputed, they actually weren't. It was like the little quarter circles you have to do on the sticks on the ground and stuff. They changed contextually loads in Undisputed 3, and all of them, whereas it doesn't so much in this one. But it's a complicated sport, so it's very difficult. EA MMA stripped it down very, very well for the ground, and turned it into a chess match, but in doing so, kind of abandoned 90% of grappling to do it. It made it fun and work well in a game context, but this one has a lot more positions and a lot more things, but it has way less positions and things than Undisputed 3, so I don't know. I don't want to be too down on it. I really don't. I did have some great fights, and I'm very much looking forward to the game still.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I did. The last match I had, I really felt like I won it, and I was understanding how stuff works. I suppose the shame with games like this is that sports games don't tend to get a lot of post-launch support. I mean, they get DLC and stuff, but they're not tinkered with in the way that, say, Street Fighter is, which is a shame, because if it doesn't feel right at launch, it's kind of going to stay that way. That's what happened with the problem with the UFC games, the THQ ones, is that you feel like there was so much they could have done if they tinkered with it, but they never did.
Yeah, I think this one will have better post launch support. EA MMA was looked after much better than the UFC games.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
okay.
But those games are made. The UFC THQ ones were made in Japan, and everything just felt so stretched. Where hopefully this will be looked after a bit better.
Yeah. I also, the present, I mean, it does look amazing. I'm sure everyone's seen it. The thing that really impressed me is when you're on the ground, you can see the fighters looking out sort of beyond the ring, like they do when they're trying to sort of gauge how much time they've got left in the round. That was really wow, cool. That looks amazing.
Sorry, just to jump on that one quickly. Yeah, I got a cut in one of the fights, and it just had like an exchange with the other guy. Then we both backed off, and my guy, it was Gustafsson, just stopped and like wiped the cut with his hand and then kept going, and it looked completely real. And the commentator mentioned the cut as it happened, and I was like, damn, that's pretty good.
Yeah. The only thing presentation-wise that I think is lacking is the crowd sounds quite weird.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if the game launched with that sort of sound, because it's like generic white crowd noise in the background with a few jarring sort of woos put over the top, quite loud. So it sounds like there's nobody there. It sounds like there's about 2 people with this weird noise in the background. So I assume that's not going to be in the final version of it.
I hope not, but it's so close to launch, and they've been so stretched that might have been like low priority. But I know what you mean. When you listen to a FIFA match atmosphere, and then yeah.
But I suppose if anything's not going to make the cut, I'd rather it's that than something sort of to do with the actual game. Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, it's a couple of weeks away now, so we shall see.
June 20th is out. So I'm still excited to play it. But I think I had my hopes for perhaps a bit unfairly too high. But then again, they ditched the whole EA MMA team and made it with a completely new team. So when I first heard the game, I was like, oh, sweet, there's already an amazing game from EA. Just use those guys.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
It's a shame. Okay, well, that was my number 6. So.
Oh, all right. So my number. So that was your number 6. I'm on my number 3.
That's okay. That's my number 6. So my number 5 is Halo Spartan Assault. I've done that. Mm-hmm. So, do you want to do your 3?
My 3.
Have you missed one out? Are you sure you haven't got 9?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, definitely not. I just counted them with my finger.
That doesn't make any sense to me at all. But okay, do your 3 and I'll do my 3 and 4, I guess, or something.
Okay, so my next one on my list is Broforce on PC. This another early access / beta type situation. Again, on my nephew's PC. Have you heard anything about this game?
Refresh my memory. I definitely have.
Okay, so this is a 2D side-on classic action type. late 80s, early 90s style side scroller, starring all the classic action movie heroes that you can think of, but they've all got bro in their name instead of their name. So you've got Bronan and like Bruce Willis is basically all like that. Brobocop.
Sounds good.
Yeah, which is a great start anyway. And it's a tremendously fun action game, side scroller, where you do very short levels, and the idea of the levels is to find other guys from your team who are been taken prisoner, kill everything in the level, and then get out on the chopper at the end. At the moment, I don't know if this is the way the very finished game is going to be, but it will randomly start you with one of the many characters in the Broforce. There's like Neo, there's a few different Arnies, there's like Indiana Jones, there's fucking like a Dolph Lundgren guy. There's loads and loads and loads of every single one just brought. It's like Mr. T. Everyone brought a smile to my face. You rescue another one, and your character will change into that one. They all have their own attacks and their own special attacks, which are fun. And you can blow up large chunks of the environment with explosives. And it's like when you shoot the baddies, they all explode and guts go over there. It's all done in pixel art, but it's just very like in your face, very appealing, bright colours, kind of Mega Drive style look to it, but very, very, very knowing. And yeah, just there was nothing about it that wasn't excellent. I just thought it was just great fun to play. Loved all the characters. It just seemed to be every few minutes there's like Snake Plissken, there's another Kurt Russell. There's like 2 different Kurt Russell characters. I don't really understand how it exists when it just feels like it should be completely litigious, but yeah, there it is. And they have all the weapons that you think of. Like Ripley's in it as well, and it's got the weapons that you can think of. And you're just changing these characters all the time because you're rescuing a new one. And yeah, the way the levels fall apart and stuff. Nothing bad to say about it. Just thought it was great fun. Looking forward to playing it myself on my own computer, and looking forward to the game coming out. Yeah, great stuff.
Nice. Is it? So it's in early access.
Yeah, it's like the later stages of early access. I think it's been around a little while. I think, but yeah, it feels like there are things that still need to be done to it. Like it doesn't have a tutorial or anything like that. Not that it needs one, but it just doesn't. It feels like it's missing the trimmings. Yeah. Right. But the central game is there and very, very solid and fun. And I'm hoping they just add a ton more characters because that's what it's all about.
I'm hoping they bring it to console.
It will come to console.
Great.
The production value is already too high for it not to.
Right. Okay. Superb. That sounds excellent.
Yeah, it's ace.
Okay, well, my number 4 is Watch Dogs. Is it on your list?
No, didn't actually have the chance to play it at all this week.
All right. I haven't played it very much. It's on my. Well, it's probably my number 4. Yeah. I am enjoying it. It's good. It's really good. Occasionally slightly too mindless for my taste, but which is weird because mindless is my specialty. But yeah, it's fun. But I mean, yeah, for a game that's about a world that's supposedly a few shades away from the one we live in, it has nothing to say at all. It's just a cool backdrop for a story. A story that it relies on the damsel in distress trope so much. I can't. I've already rescued a couple of women. There's always a woman on the phone to, like, help me. I mean, they rely on that. But yeah, I mean, the sort of. The world is just an interesting backdrop for a story that I am following and I am enjoying, despite all of the cliches. I think it's well told and I am engaged. But if this game is going to go down in history for anything, it's how unbelievably derivative it is. You cannot get away from that. All of the Ubisoft franchises in it, from Grand Theft Auto. I mean, it's not original in the slightest, but that does not detract from how good some of it is. I mean, especially the gunfights. I've had some gunfights that were just thrilling. It drip feeds enemy reinforcements from all directions, really taxing and really exciting. You really have to think. So I'm taking it slow. I mean, it's huge. If you haven't picked up Watch Dogs, it absolutely huge. And the temptation to do other things is just omnipresent because things will splash right from the screen. This is there. I mean, honestly, it does. It wants you to do everything rather than go into sort of take in the story, which is okay because some of the side missions have been really terrific as well. So I'm towards the second act. I think the end of the second act.
Okay.
I don't know if there's 3 or 5.
It's 5.
But
the fifth one's only one mission.
Oh right.
And
okay.
the second one's the longest one, I think.
Oh right. Okay. But yeah, despite how insanely derivative it is, it's polished and very entertaining and thoughtfully designed in a lot of places.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to what I said last week because I haven't played it. I have, however, seen it on 360 because my nephew got it, even though it's an 18, but whatever. And it doesn't look great on 360. This is one that, it definitely feels like it needs a bit more oomph. Just looks a lot worse than Grand Theft Auto 5 on 360.
Yeah.
But another friend of mine who has finished the game on 360 said it was great. So, I'm sure if that's all you got and you want to play Watch Dogs, it does the job.
Better that than nothing, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I had to say. Just that I'd seen it on that.
Oh yeah, well I'm liking it. I'm taking it slow. I think it's good, just derivative as hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to. I've been wanting to get back into it, and I totally agree about some of the gunfights. Have you done the one in the? It's like at the bottom of a tower block.
When you're rescuing that woman.
No.
The bottom of a tower block.
It's like a wire-style tower block.
Wire-style tower? I can't, not that it's not something that's coming to mind.
It's like in a sort of gangland area. It's just a great shootout. You may have done it completely stealthily and not had to use any guns. Oh no, I think you do eventually have to fire your way out of there.
Yeah, you do. You have to.
I think at the end you do.
Okay.
But it was one of those ones where I just kind of abandoned stealth after a couple of kills and just turned into full-on gun battle.
I do like the fact that you can turn stealth things into gunfights, and a lot of the time you don't have to worry about the police. You just sort of drive away and
narratively, that's hilarious in a game where they're watching you the whole time. It's just like there's fucking like 20 bodies and this building and nobody knows, but I don't care.
It's true. It is, but it's so enjoyable to know that I could drive around trying to get away from these schmucks, or I could just stop the car and gun them all down and then drive off happily. Which is, it is a slightly moronic game in that sense because, it is daft. But yeah, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got 2 games left.
2 games left, and I've done 8. So I'm not at fault here.
Can you just run through your 8 quickly?
Sure. Starbound.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 2.
Yep.
Make It Rain.
Yep.
Halo Spartan Assault.
Yep.
Don't Touch the White Tile.
Yep.
Titanfall.
Yep.
Broforce.
Yep.
UFC.
Yep. What the fuck's
That's 8,
gone
right?
wrong? Yeah, Wolfenstein, Sly Cooper, Don't Look Back, Pixeljunk Shooter, EA Sports, Halo, Spartan Assault, Watch Dogs. That's 7. So my number 8 is number 3. So we've probably just fucked it up by changing the order. Shall I do my number 3 quickly?
Yeah.
It's a very exciting one. My number 3 is Worms Battlegrounds on the PlayStation 4. It's a Worms game. If you read the very amusing review on videogamer.com, which just pointed out how it's just another Worms game, you'll be more than aware that this is just another Worms game. Not a great deal has changed. This is actually a port of Worms Clan Wars from, I think it came out last year on the PC. So all of the new weapons that this is touting, they're actually new weapons to that. I mean, these aren't new to this. If you played that game, this is the same. And if you haven't played that, there's nothing game-changing apart from you can teleport now, which I'm pretty sure came with Clan Wars. But anyways, if you've never played the Worms game, it's a platformer stroke turn-based strategy game in which you control a load of worms who are equipped with things like hand grenades, semi-automatic firearms, bazookas, etc., blah, 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 and telekinesis, stuff like that. And you switch between worms to take out your opponents. It's glacially paced Sunday afternoon chill-out gaming, essentially. And it's very fun in multiplayer. It always has been, potentially always will be. It can't be denied. It's very, very fun in multiplayer. In this one, there's this campaign, which is just completely and utterly superfluous. It's pointless. It's just there's this lady called Tara who's voiced by I've forgotten her name, Catherine something from the IT crowd. Oh, yeah. And it's non-stop quote unquote jokes about how she's actually Lara Croft, and there's jokes about the fact that she's supposed to be Lara Croft and there's a bad guy. It's just Worms with a few additional goals during matches, and there's a villain who's out to get you. It's fine, but you can just ignore it. The reason you'd buy it is to play multiplayer, and that's really good. The matchmaking is very brisk, and online play on PS4 is stable and like completely might as well be local. You can't really argue with how good the game is. I'm quite interested to see how it does on the new consoles, because from what I understand, it's become a fairly big deal on iOS. So, I mean, in addition to being cheaper on iOS and having access to sort of an older fan base, it may have done that thing where it's inadvertently been rendered incredibly uncool, which tends to happen when things take off on mobile. Yeah. So I don't know how it's going to do on PS4 and Xbox One, but like I said, you cannot argue with Worms. It's really fun. There is not anything new here. I mean, in a very real sense, because this is a port of a PC game from last year. But even if you hadn't played that, this is there's nothing groundbreaking. But it's fun. You can't argue with it. It's Worms. It's good.
Yeah, I never really played Worms ever.
I mean, you can't argue with it. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with it.
I'm just going to repeat myself. But yeah, there just comes a time when you can't really say anything. It's just good.
Well, you mean you can't argue with it?
You can't. It's just good.
Okay. Well, a game that you can argue with is my number 2, and I've got a sneaky suspicion it might be yours as well. It's Murdered Soul Suspect on Xbox One. Yeah, Murdered Soul Suspect, the video game.
Yeah.
So, is this your number 2 as well?
My number 2, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I guess I'll kick things off. In Murdered Soul Suspect, you play as a policeman called Ronan O'Connor. In fact, you play as the ghost of this policeman, because at the very beginning of the game, he dies. And the concept of the game is that you're trying to solve your own murder. Great concept. And you do this quite simply by walking around in a circle in rooms, pressing the X button, waiting for clues to come up, most of which have no bearing on anything, then piecing those clues together by highlighting them in a menu and waiting for the right sound to appear, pressing the A button, it links whichever clue to the query that the game is asking you at the time, almost every single time, seemingly for no reason. It could have been any of the clues that suddenly link these two things together. And then you go on to the next bit. You can clip through most of the scenery deliberately because you're a ghost, but you can't clip through certain walls, which is explained early on by a hackneyed, pigtailed ghost girl. She basically just sits there and establishes the rules for ages. Yet they seem to be rules that the game is more than happy to break constantly. For example, the man can't touch anything. He can't pick up his gun at the beginning of the game. He can't pick anything up. Yet for no reason, about an hour and a half into the game, he can suddenly poltergeist, which has become a verb, things in the world somehow, and you make papers fall out of a printer or make a coffee machine squirt, or that's about it, really. I thought it was bloody awful. A bloody awful, tedious non-game that had a good concept, same concept as Ghost Trick, a fantastic video game on DS and iOS. But this is just nothing. Even points where it's asking you to piece clues together will give you 3 chances, but even if you fail the 3 chances, it just keeps letting you have more chances. It's like, why did you let me have 3 chances? I mean, the story itself was okay. It's something that if you've ever watched an episode of Ghost Whisperer, which I have because my wife loved Ghost Whisperer, is basically the story to every episode of Ghost Whisperer. The dialogue in Ghost Whisperer is actually better than in this game. And I've just seen it all before on TV. Playing it's a complete non-event. I must say there are also a lot of stealth sections where you have to hide from these demons in the world, because for some reason there's demons in this limbo world that you're stuck in, where you for some reason hide in holes in the world that, I mean, it's narratively it's just daft, and then sneak up behind the demons and execute them seemingly by sort of pulling their demon clothes off. I don't know what he does. How Ronan knew how to do this the first time it happened, I have no idea. He's just become a ghost. He's just trying to work out what the hell's going on. A demon's come, and he's got the balls to walk up behind it and yank it a bit, because that's probably going to kill it. Fair enough. I'm not really picking holes in that. That's just that sort of stuff is so far away from the things that are really wrong with this game that it's pointless even mentioning them. That's like, there's this. It's a non-game. That's the problem with it. I've seen some decent reviews of this game, which I'm baffled by. I'm absolutely baffled by. I thought it was one of the least eventful, sort of insultingly tedious. Tedious is the word. Games that I've played in a long, long time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I completely agree. I think it's a catastrophe as a game. I mean, it really is, because it is like, it's a non-game. I mean, I felt this at the beginning, and I felt it when I finished the game. It feels like it had either its budget or its development cycle or both cut in half, because it's merely the suggestion of a good game. It's barely more interactive than its own trailer. It's almost as if a game died and what's left is this ghostly vapor of something that may never have even existed. It's such an odd thing, and like you, I don't understand the reception. I read some reviews on places like Polygon and Eurogamer, and I was just like, the writing's genuinely good. No, it isn't.
that baffled me.
The demons are genuinely terrifying. No, they're not. What are you talking about? The
demons are just Dementors from Harry Potter. I mean,
that's true. That's true.
They just are.
I did think that it started quite well, because there is this intro cutscene. I'm not sure if it's been done before. But before he dies at the beginning, we find out bits and pieces about him via this cutscene, where the incidents that you see are then sort of insta-animated onto his body as tattoos. And I'm not 100% sure, like I said, if that's been done before elsewhere, but just as a storytelling device, very cool. I was like, I like this already. I want to like it. And I just don't know where to begin, because it just feels like it's not a game. I can't quite understand. I mean, I estimated in my review that it was 70%, but I'd say it's probably 80% of it is just walking around locked off spaces and picking collectibles up. Yeah. And you're constantly invited to interact with the game, but you can't really. I mean, so you can possess anybody. You're walking around this Salem, and it's one of those. It's kind of like it's perpetually at night, but there's just random people walking around, and you can possess anybody and read their minds. Literally one or two sound bites repeating just complete inane and superfluous information that you don't need and is not interesting in the slightest. So that's another problem, is that I kept doing it to wait for something interesting to happen, and on the few occasions that the game actually demands that you do that in order to progress, I didn't want to, because I couldn't be bothered. I was like, I don't really want to hear anything these people have to say, because it's just it's just water. It's just stuff to sort of fill time in the game. I did also like the explanation of the fact that you couldn't pass through some walls. I thought that was quite neat. The fact that the buildings were consecrated during the witch trials or something. I thought it's a nice bit of world building. Anyway. And also the other thing you're invited to do is interact with bits of scenery, like you said, as a poltergeist. But you do it again, like the possession thing. You do it on like 2-3 occasions. You have to move, because if you interact with things in front of NPCs when you're not supposed to, they just stand there and pay no attention to it. It's not a system. It's a gameplay system that applies twice, and yet when you walk into a room, there's 10 things highlighted. Oh, come over and play with this. Even if there's a cop sitting next to you, and you fling papers in front of him, he doesn't pay any attention because it's not part of the game. Yeah. It just feels like all of those systems were suggested and they never got a chance to implement them, because there's not really any systems in the game apart from walking around in circles, like you said, and picking up collectibles. There's also like a bit when you can possess a cat a couple of times, and that's it, and then that never comes back. And those bits you talk about with the demons, again, the weird thing about those is that they're actually video gamey, sort of. There's a bit of stealth involved, but without them, and without a later bit where you have to bounce in between a ghost train or something completely nonsensical. Without those bits, this is a game that literally anybody could complete, because you just walk around, you find the collectibles, and then you say, hey, pick every wrong answer first and then pick the right ones and we'll give it to you. I suppose it's difficult because if you make that stuff too difficult and there is a penalty for failing it, you'll alienate a lot of people, and if you make it too easy, there's no compulsion to play it, which is what's happened, because I don't know why would anyone be compelled to just endlessly walk around and... I mean, collectibles on the side are okay, but just a game that's comprised almost entirely of walking around locked off spaces and picking up collectibles, I mean, it's a real mystery. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've basically said it all. There's no challenge. What can you say? I mean, like I said, I think it's a catastrophically poor video game. It's barely a game. It's it feels like they had so many ideas and they never got the opportunity to implement it. So instead, what you do is walk around. I mean, I do like the main characters, the guy that plays the main character, because he's covered in tattoos. He's got a really shady past. He wears a fedora, and like he's one of those characters that should, by default, speak like this. And he doesn't. He's actually played like a sort of relatively normal, laid-back bloke. And I thought that's quite an interesting take, I suppose. I'm just grasping at straws. I mean, yeah, I really tried to like this game, but it's not really a game. It's the shell of a game, and there's a turd in the middle.
I can't disagree with that. I can't argue with that.
I don't understand those positive reviews. I'm just thinking, what's it's so almost fundamentally is not a video game. I don't know, but it's weird because if you go onto Let's Plays on YouTube and you read some of the comments, people are like really digging the look of it, and I don't know. It's the appeal evades me completely.
Yeah, me too. Pure bafflement.
Yeah, indeed.
Something that very much is a video game, though, is our mutual number ones. Mario Kart 8. I'm sure this is your number one. I'm not taking liberties. What to say about Mario Kart 8? Do you want to go? I've done the other two leading them.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't really know what to say. I played it a couple of months ago, and when people started dropping amazingly high scores, and I was just like, I knew that was going to happen, because it was one of those games that playing it, you can just tell. It's the quality was evident, even though I only played it for 3 or 4 hours. It's gone back to being a racing game. The weapons are completely and utterly luck based, and yes, that is better. That does make it fairer. If you're good at it, you will persevere, you will win, but it's still got. It really reminds me of the SNES Mario Kart. It's fantastic. I've been playing it all weekend. I can't get enough of it. It's just truly gripping in ways that a sort of home console Mario Kart hasn't been since the N64 one for me, which is still potentially my favourite. Like a lot of top-flight first-party Nintendo stuff, it's a charm offensive as well. I mean, everyone probably has a list of things that they love about the game, but personally, I'll never tire of seeing those shrooms floating around the planet in those spacesuits.
Yeah.
I'll never get tired. The nightclub level, the nightclub track, there's screens of like people dancing in a nightclub, but presumably to save disk space, it's done in quite low res and low frame rate, so it looks like those cheesy in-camera effects that they used to do on those nightclub programs. They used to show at 2 a.m. to try and jazz it up. It just, every time I drive past that screen, it's just like, it seems like it's not satire at all. It's not this is a reference that's only in my head, but there's so many things like that I just found hilariously funny. But the important thing is that it is a racing game again. I like the fact that red shells don't follow you onto shortcuts now. They may not have done on the handheld ones, but I'm sure that this is the first time they've done it on the home console one. I like the fact that blue shells are about as rare as they should be.
Yeah, and you can stop them with the horn if you have the horn.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
is that right?
You know that horn thing that you get?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's for stopping shells, but yeah, you can stop the blue shell with that. So if you get that out in front, yeah.
That's great. Have you seen this fire hopping thing everyone's talking about?
I saw it today and I didn't have time to watch the video, but yeah, I'm not sure what it is.
It's just basically as soon as you do a boost, you just keep bouncing and you sort of prolong the boost a little bit longer than it normally goes.
Okay.
It doesn't. I mean, whether they patch it, I don't think is much of an issue because it's not like snaking where people could master it and spend ages sort of manipulating it. This is something that anybody could do. So if it becomes part of the game, I can't. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really used it, and I haven't seen exactly how severe it can be. But yeah, that's interesting. But anyway, Mario Kart 8 is just it's absolutely fantastic. It's the best Mario Kart. Well, I mean, I say the best Mario Kart because the handheld ones have been consistently superb. But the best home console one since 64, definitely.
Yeah, I was absolutely blown away by it. It looks incredible.
Does, yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. The track design with the anti-grav stuff, which I didn't realise until you told me. You get a speed boost for kind of bumping into each other, so it kind of turns into this kind of dodgems thing in the middle of every track. Some of the tracks are absolutely stunning. The new ones, and I really like what they've done with the remade tracks as well. I think they've done a great job there. Loving the facial expressions of the characters when you watch them back in the replays. Obviously, that Luigi Deste video has gone viral, so everybody's probably seen that by now. But the game's just absolutely littered with stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to find a bad word to say about it. We were having some connection problems online. Hopefully that will be ironed out. We're trying to play with each other on the weekend, and I've had a few more since. But hopefully they'll iron all that stuff out. The basic online works in the same way as the 3DS ones. You start at 1,000 points and you go up and down depending on how well you do. But the fun is in playing, not in ranking up. It's Mario Kart. There's not a huge amount more you can say to it than that, other than it plays amazingly well. It's instantly compelling. Like within the first corner, I knew I loved it. And I'm amazed that I'm excited about Mario Kart again. But just seeing that at that level of fidelity is a wonderful thing indeed. And it still has me saying terrible things about cartoon characters. And also people from other countries in Europe, as they have the flags on when you play online, and you can see which countries people are from. And I've let a tirade of terrible abuse out of my mouth, none of which I actually mean. But at that moment is nothing else can come from my face.
Yeah, it's it's a hell of a game. There's just I intended to make a list of all the things that are just so charming. It's silly. I mean, I mentioned a couple, but another thing is that I think it's Donut Plains 3 from the SNES version. It's all run down. The grass is overgrown. All the stuff around the sides is all faded and old. Like it's like a knackered old track that no one's looked after. That's just such a nice touch.
Yeah.
But I mean, all the stuff, all the cosmetic sort of stuff is one thing, but just as a racing game, it's really, really fun. And you lose almost nothing. I mean, it's 60 frames per second on split screen, and online co-op is just it's a riot.
Yeah, absolute joy, a joy of a video game. Hopefully, I can see it shifting a few Wii U's. First game I've really thought that about. I think for that console.
Yeah, well, it deserves it because it's. I mean, I've never heard so many people ask me and ask people on social media about what constitutes or whether this is worth buying a Wii U for. And basically, realistically, no game is ever worth buying a console for. If you live in the real world, it's a silly amount of money to fork out for one game. But in the pantheon of like Halo Combat Evolved, in the pantheon of system sellers, this is up there. That's how good it is. There's a surfeit of content. It's so polished. I mean, I said, it basically is for the price you can get it for with a Wii U. I am going to be. Someone said that. I think it was Dave Turner said, but I mean, you're going to be bored in 2 weeks. I'm going to be playing this as long as I have a Wii U, even if it's only because my girlfriend won't have it any other way. But it's tremendously good. I mean, really, really, really superb.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Me too.
All right. So, what's your number one?
That was my number one.
Okay, that's it then. Thank you for listening to the podcast 116 in the can. Check us out on Twitter @John Denton, @Chet Roivers, @Chet and John. Check us out on YouTube, Chet and John on YouTube. iTunes reviews if you want, always appreciated. Come talk to us online. Thousands of apologies if you sent me an everybody's golf invite. Unfortunately, I'm a terrible person. I don't mean to not play these games, but I don't have any time, and I keep seeing the invites coming up, and I'm not being rude. I'm not playing it with anybody, so I'm not ignoring anyone, but I couldn't even pretend to promise that I'm going to play with you because I just don't have time. I like to think I have time, but I don't have time, so apologies. That's very rude of me. But sorry.
Yeah. Well, on a similar note, I am playing with people, and if I don't, I've already lost a couple of games because I've left it too long because they have that stupid deadline where you can't leave it longer than 3 days. I think. Yeah. So if that's happened, apologies. But yeah, I'm trying to sort of keep as many games going as I can at once because it's still good, still fun. But yeah, that was that bit.
That's it. See you again.
Thanks very much for listening. Maybe see you next week.
Bye.
Yeah.